a case study on different type of pivots and MVPs and other process. So this is a story of a company called Votizen, or which later became 2GOV. It was founded by a person called David in 1990s in USA. So what it does, it developed a civic platform where the people can register and become a registered voter online for social networking and other peoples. So they would be able to. So that was the idea, and that there has to be registered voter to become part of the network. So the idea was to develop a social network where they can interact with each other, and then that the government also can understand what the peoples are talking about because they are registered voters, how the political sentiment is working in the country. So he developed a prototype, and then there was initial registrations, but registrations were not very exciting. So for his model, he was focusing on registrations, activations, retention means activation as a registered user, as registered voter. Retention means they have to come back to the platform and do the social interaction. Refer means they have to refer the use of this platform to their friends. So initial MVP was built, cohort analysis was run. So registrations were only 55%, activations were only 17%, and there was no retention, no referral. So he got the customer feedback, and then he optimized his product. After optimizing the product, he developed the messaging factor and then changed the UI. So initial after that optimization, the registrations improved slightly, activations improved drastically, retention was there, some referral was there, but it was still not clicking. There was no revenue. The retention level was very low because he what he got from the customer feedback was why they should come back to the platform. There was nothing happening on the platform. The retention level was very low. So what he did at that point of time, he zoomed into the product, and instead of focusing on the social programming, what he believed he did was he changed into a program which is for fundraising or cause building. So where the persons could subscribe to the pay a transactional fee to use the system, generate any cause for fundraising, for submitting to the government, for social cause. So they were able to sign on the platform, and that platform was able to be printed to submit to the Congress. So that was one way of doing the generating the business. So that way it was able to generate a lot of registrations, a lot of activations. Retention was higher, referral was higher, very higher, but revenue was very low. So there was no lifetime value for a very specific reason, that it was a transactional basis. So instead of referring on relying on the social activists who were ready to pay the customer, David thought of making it B2B, but and he got the intent from the companies. But when he developed the program, he spent the money, and he wanted to actually sell the product. The custom companies backed out, so he was left with nothing. So his hypothesis that companies will use the platform to for their social cause, it was not successful. So what he did next was he developed the program. He changed the program into that anybody, he learned from the Google AdWords, where he allow anybody to use the system with just a credit card. So they could use for funding, they could use for any other cause, whatever it may be, just to get the people's idea about their cause. Since they were still registered users, it was very successful because it carried a very high weight among the state officials on anything. So anybody who wanted to raise a cause could pay the money, and that way the registration rate was even though registration rate and activation didn't improve much, the revenue improves drastically because he was charging zero point 0.2 cent per message, and messages were validated message. So it was able to generate a new customer segment, new business revenue for them. So the platform was called 2GOV, so which was a very successful way of doing the business. So this is one case study which explains about the minimum viable product, and then how the customer feedback can do the optimization. Then from optimization, even if the product is not working, you zoom into the specific feature. If the specific feature is not able to sustain the business, you zoom into another customer segment. And then after the particular before the pivoting, his program was a application, means a app. Rather than he, instead of doing that, he changed the program to a web-based system so that anybody could use it. Instead of application, he changed it to as a platform. So that was another change that he did in his platform. So that that made his business successful.